Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Hey, Wendy.
Hey, Mike.
Weren't you just on vacation?
I
welcome,
was.
Welcome back to cold
Thank you.
Wisconsin.
Thank you. It's cold here. I was in California and it was warm there.
That was nice, huh?
It was beautiful. It was really difficult coming back here.
What part of California were you in?
San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah. And I saw the Capitol in Sacramento for the first time.
All right, with Jerry Brown there?
I don't know if he was there or not. I didn't actually go inside the Capitol, but I saw the Capitol structure.
Okay.
And it was very pretty. There were orange trees surrounding it and
Oh, that's
flowers. And yeah, it was quite nice.
Jerry Brown used to date Linda Ronstadt back in the 70s.
Really?
Yeah, they called him Governor Moonbeam.
Gosh.
He was one of the contenders for the Democratic nomination for president in 1992.
I had no idea.
That's right. No, so people thought that he was a little bit on the far outside. That's why I liked him back in 1992.
Well, I like the state that he represents. It's
Beautiful.
Beautiful and nice and warm. I mean, it's December. It's cold here.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is you got to like people because whenever you drive, you're driving around a lot of people.
This is true.
Yeah,
But
so.
Anyway, I'm happy to be back. Thanks
Yay.
thanks to you and your sister for the nice Krampus discussion.
Well, we're always happy to talk about demons and devils and stuff like that in my family.
It was such a festive discussion. It was wonderful to hear
lovely.
you and Allison, and you guys did a great job. And
Thank
I learned
you.
some things from that. Mostly just to not be naughty.
Yes,
That's
don't
a
be
big-
naughty or you might be dragged to hell by the Christmas demon.
Like that's a bit worse than coal in your stocking.
Yeah, that's coal up your stocking.
Oh,
Hey.
heyo.
Okay.
So what are we going to talk about today, Mike?
Well, today I was thinking we could talk about subliminal messages. You
What?
remember subliminal messages. Subliminal messages.
I think I heard something.
I don't know what you heard. Buy some CDs.
So subliminal messages in recordings.
Buy Sunspot albums. No, but the whole thing. So subliminal messages, and for the people that don't know what subliminal messages are, it's the idea that you can give people messages that you don't have to be persuasive and you don't have to be convincing. You just have to do it at a level that's not reached by their consciousness. Okay?
Okay.
So this would be maybe sub-audible. So, and the theory is that if you say something like, buy Sunspot albums, and you say it real quick, or you say it at a real quiet level that only their subconscious can hear, that you're influencing people because you're bypassing their frontal cortex, the prefrontal cortex. You're bypassing the part of the brain that deals with rationality, that deals with logic, that deals with having to convince. You bypass that and go straight to the further reaches of the brain where
that's terrifying.
they can be more easily convinced.
Sure.
It's more easily pliable because
Okay.
that's part that doesn't need sense. It just needs a mission.
That's frightening, Mike.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea behind subliminal messages, is that you can say something like buy Sunspot albums, and you say it so quick. One of my favorite examples of subliminal messages
Ooh.
is from, you remember who Max Headroom is?
Of course, Max. Headroom.
Right, catch the wave. And
He had his own TV show.
Yeah, played by Matt Frewer. And Matt Frewer's, really, he's in so many great sci-fi things. I mean, Matt Frewer's been in everything. Star Trek, Chronicles of the Paranormal with
Whoa.
Dan Aykroyd. He was the trash can man in the Stephen King version of The Stand. There only is the Stephen King version. The TV version of The Stand.
Okay.
The TV version of The Stand. He's the trash can man. So Matt Frewer, he's also in Taken.
Oh, okay.
Which is a Steven Spielberg miniseries about abductions. It's like a 10-hour miniseries that was on Sci-Fi in the early 2000s.
That sounds fun.
And it's what gave us the actress Dakota Fanning.
And she is.
Well, Dakota Fanning, she's just like the greatest child actress of the past 10 years.
Okay.
So that Taken.
What else was she in?
She was in War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise.
Oh, okay.
And that was a big. She was in a couple more things that I can't remember right now. But
I haven't seen any
Taken
of those,
was like
so.
her introduction, and she was
Okay.
so awesome in that
Oh,
we were like,
cool.
"Holy crap, this is a real child actor." She was a real star. Of that.
Got it. Okay.
And anyway, Matt Frewer has been a sci-fi champion for decades, and he's the guy that played Max Headroom. So Max Headroom was not a computer-generated creation. I mean, he was a guy in makeup with special effects.
Well, right, but I mean, he.
This was the 80s. We couldn't do the computer-generated guy. He also was in the Lawnmower Man 2. Which virtual reality? Okay, it's a horrible movie.
Right. Okay.
The Lawnmower Man 1 is a semi-horrible movie. The Lawnmower Man 2 is an honest to goodness horrible movie.
Okay, so Max Headroom. But wait a minute. How does this relate to subliminal messaging again?
Okay, so the first episode of Max Headroom, the American version. I've never seen the British version, but it was the television series, yes. Not him. Just because Max Headroom also was like an interviewer. They had him interview people.
God, that would be so annoying.
In addition to being a Coke pitchman, and we'll talk about Coke in a second, Coca-Cola. And in the entertainment world, you always have to differentiate. But as far as Max Headroom goes, so he had a sci-fi show called 20 Minutes into the Future. And the first episode has these things called blipverts.
That just sounds disgusting.
It does. Blipverts are advertising.
That's rude, Mike.
Blipverts are advertising that goes by like 100 times as fast. Like, brrr, like.
Oh my gosh.
So blipverts, you receive all the messaging of the advertising subliminally, because
it's coming through so quickly that you can't perceive it.
Your conscious mind cannot process it, and people were exploding. The idea was they were receiving it was too much on them, and blipverts were killing people.
Whoa!
And so that was the original episode of the U.S. version of Max Headroom.
Wait, okay, so the episode topic was that blipverts were being delivered to people and they were exploding. It wasn't like the actual episode had blipverts.
No, I mean, this was ABC Network in the 1980s.
Right,
they didn't have blipverts.
Hey, you know.
But the idea...
How would anybody know?
The idea was that the guy was trying to stop these advertisements from going through. He discovered that, and they were trying to cover up that these advertisements were killing people because they were very effective, because they were bypassing the rational part of the brain straight to the subconscious subliminal messaging.
Creepy.
So that's one of the first things I think about when I think of subliminal messaging. I think of the first episode of Max Headroom and watching it when I was 10 years old or 11 years old or whatever, and just thinking how awesome it was. That was my favorite. That was one of my favorite shows. And so I was really disappointed when it only lasted like 6 episodes. Anything good never lasts.
Of course.
Anything really clever or whatever, it's gone.
Mwah, 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 mwah.
But subliminal messages, and saying we get back to Coke. Coca-Cola.
Yes.
The idea was that, the big urban legend about subliminal messaging is that in the 1950s, theater owners would have subliminal messages done in their movies. They'd put like a picture of a Coca-Cola.
Oh, man.
Picture of popcorn. They'd just put these images in there.
They don't need to do that, though, because the smell of popcorn alone is enough to make anyone want to.
I agree, but the smell of popcorn still has to go through your rational mind, where you're like, can I really afford the $9 for a bucket of popcorn that it costs? Right. It's
worth
like...
it.
Buttery. That
good.
fake butter flavor, whatever it is, it's so delicious. It's so disgusting.
Right so bad for you.
Yeah,
it's delicious.
Right. It goes straight to your heart. Like the individual kernels of the popcorn go right to your heart, and they stuff it,
clog the arteries directly.
But that was the initial thing. Was the subliminal messages in the 1950s that theaters were doing that, and that's kind of the first time.
So how long did it take people to like actually realize that these things were happening? That they weren't just like, oh, I feel like popcorn now.
Well, it was a guy that did research in the 1950s.
Oh, okay.
And so, people thought of this research as very reliable for a long time. And then they stopped. And then we'll talk about at the end, we talk about the science behind subliminal messaging a little bit. We'll get back into it. But that was the place, like to drink Coca-Cola. Drink Coca-Cola. You know, like that would just, a picture of a Coke, you know, something would just get you.
Yeah, that's...
I'm thirsty and I don't know why. Did you ever see, you've seen Fight Club, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's Brad Pitt's character. Like, when he was working at the movie theater, he would splice images of pornography into films.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then they would do that in the movie. And they did it at the very end of the movie. And so if you haven't seen Fight Club, get with the program. But
it's old now.
Yeah, it is. It's 15.
Oh,
no.
gosh, no.
I'm sorry. It's not 15 years old. Maybe, 15 years old. Yeah, 15, like 1999. I remember seeing it at the West Town Theater. Yeah. All right. I am Jack's getting old. Okay. Enough Fight Club jokes. Let's talk about more subliminal messaging.
So
examples in popular culture.
Yeah, because there's so that's the movie side of it.
Yeah, I mean that was the like the original thing. So when you think of subliminal messaging in the modern era, and I tend to think I think a lot of people tend to think of the 1950s, 1960s as the modern era.
Okay.
Because a lot of the people who had lived in the 1950s and 1960s, they're still alive.
Right.
You know, like
And
you
well.
can right. You can. The World War II generation is passing on. Like it's just.
Right.
If you're old enough to have served in World War II, then you are in your 90s.
You're elderly at this point.
Right now. You know, just you're so old that it's...
Right.
So, you know, people like my parents grew up in the 1940s, were teenagers in the 19... Like my dad was 18 in 1955, like Richie Cunningham. Like my dad is the age that Ron Howard character from Happy Days
well, that's a good
would be today.
Okay.
And so I consider that the beginning of the modern era, the 1950s, like post-war, but not, you know, after the Korean War.
Sure.
Kind of thing. And so, but a little more recent examples. Let's go back. Do you remember there was a presidential election in the year 2000? I don't know if you remember too much about it. I don't remember. There's people.
Oh, man, I didn't sleep for like 3 days.
Right. There was a whole thing of like, who's the president? What's going to happen? Like election, like. It was like a full month after election day, or maybe it wasn't that much. It was like at least a couple weeks.
It was a long,
the full
long
time before the Supreme Court made their whole thing.
Right.
They even called the Supreme Court case Bush versus Gore. They didn't even bother to say like, you know, the Democratic versus the Republicans. They said Bush versus Gore. Well, he ran a campaign ad. George Bush ran a campaign ad in 2000 where they said the word bureaucrats, and it did like a focus. Like everything else was out of focus except the word rats.
Nice.
You know? And people were saying that was an example of subliminal messaging because you were seeing rats. So however you felt about the government or people that worked in the government or things like that, bureaucrats, you know, that kind of thing. And that's really what subliminal messaging is all about. It's about a little kind of focus that might change,
influence your thoughts.
You know, around the same time, maybe a little bit after, and this isn't even the outline. I just remembered this. Okay, you remember? So Miller Lite, we've drank in our share, right?
Oh, gosh.
Right. Yeah, we've drank oceans of Miller Lite. Grew up in Milwaukee. You didn't have a choice, and not when we were kids. You know what I mean? Anyway, so Miller Lite, they had that. Remember the guy Dick? It was like this ad was created by Dick. Like they had a whole
ad campaign.
So Miller Lite had a whole special ad campaign based around the fact that there was a regular guy named Dick.
Good old Dick.
Yeah, good old Dick would try to get you to drink Miller Lite. So he was the guy creating the ads.
Okay.
So it wasn't some
marketing executive.
Wasn't some Madison Avenue marketing executive guy who
Stuffy.
drinks 3 olives vodka. It was Dick who drinks Miller Lite.
Okay.
Okay. So
what was Dick doing to us?
At the end of every commercial was like 1 or 2 seconds of this message was brought to you by Dick. And Dick was signed.
Okay.
Well, somebody stopped that part of it and looked at the actual signature.
Yeah.
And Dick's signature looked like drink. So it was signed, so Dick looked like it said drink.
Interesting.
And that was another example. I mean,
For a visual type of thing where you look at it and then your mind goes, ooh.
drink. Maybe if they just told me to drink, and maybe I should drink Miller Lite. I need to go to the bathroom a lot.
I feel bloated.
Right. So that was just I just thought of that example and I forgot about that. Was that whole dick thing?
Interesting.
To drink. Now, there's also a Simpsons episode where they talk about subliminal messaging, and Bart joins a boy band.
Oh man.
Yeah. Okay. So if you guys don't know what a boy band is, if you're young, think of One Direction. If you're old, think of the Monkees.
Oh wow.
If you're not quite
Somewhere in between.
If you're not quite that old, think of New Kids on the Block.
Okay.
And then, if you're not quite that old, think of
Backstreet Boys.
NSYNC or Backstreet Boys.
Sure.
So, and this is obviously around when boy bands came back into vogue, which was the early 2000s, late 90s, with Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and O-Town and whatever else they had. 98. I forgot about 98 Degrees.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't even name a 98 Degrees song.
Don't forget All for One.
No, I forget about them. Yeah, how could I? I have their poster on my wall. Okay. But the thing is that Bart was trying to get people to join the Navy. So the boy band in The Simpsons was using subliminal messages
that's funny.
to get
That's
people
cute.
to join the Navy. And that's just another example of pop culture. And then probably what I think is when it was very literal is Kevin Nealon, who I guess if you are not familiar with late 80s Saturday Night Live, which I'm very sorry if you're not familiar with late 80s Saturday Night Live, because I still think that's the second best one behind the original. Kevin Nealon, tall, dark-haired guy. He was on the show Weeds. He also is one half of Hans and Franz. Right. So Hans and Franz is right, and they're back in the State Farm ads.
That's right.
With Aaron Rodgers, like Dana Carvey and Kevin Nealon.
Is that actually Dana Carvey in those ads?
Oh yeah, that's Dana Carvey.
I didn't think it was him. It did not look like him to me.
Really? I still think Dana Carvey's like 60. He looks good.
Yeah. Well, he was in that one sitcom. What was it? Oh shoot, I can't think of it now. Okay, we'll think of it. But anyway, in that ad, it did not look like him.
Okay.
I thought they hired somebody who just sort of looked like Dana Carvey for the Hans and Franz thing.
No, I'm sure it's got to be Dana Carvey.
Really?
I think he owns the intellectual property, and I think he can.
I don't think he can have anyone else be Franz.
be me, Hans and Franz.
Must pump you up.
you gully man.
All right, well-
Mr. Salty Pretzel.
It's pretty amazing that is continuing. It's perpetuated with Aaron Rodgers.
Like 25 years later, we're still talking about Hans and Franz with Aaron Rodgers. And so Kevin Nealon was one half of Hans and Franz.
One
And
half.
He also he did Weekend Update after Dennis Miller. And before Norm Macdonald.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
before, because it was Norm Macdonald and Colin Quinn. Anyway.
Dennis Miller.
But Dennis Miller,
Oh,
Kevin
okay, I'm
Nealon,
sorry,
then
yes.
Norm Macdonald.
Yeah.
So, and I loved Kevin Nealon when he did it. But Kevin Nealon
hilarious.
used to have a character called Subliminal
That's
Man.
right.
And so Subliminal would like talk to a woman in the elevator. He'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? Boy, it's nice to meet you. Have sex with me."
Yeah.
And he would just say those little things like, "I'm a really good looking guy." And it was just little Subliminal Man would give little subliminal messages between regular things. It would say them so fast. So I think when a lot of people think of subliminal messages, the first person they think of is meeting Kevin Nealon in an elevator and him saying like, "Take off your clothes." And that was always good. Well, we can also go back to how about the UK the UK has made a law prohibiting subliminal messaging in advertising.
That is a great idea.
So
Because
don't break the law.
I'm sorry, but the notion of ads being able to just
Sneak things at you.
like
And that's
implant
if
little
you
things
think
in
they
your brain.
work. Like if you think that your subconscious is so suggestible.
But you can't help that.
No, that's true. That you couldn't help it. But if you think your subconscious is so suggestible that you can give Mike $100, then whatever. Buy me a car. So the UK has made a law prohibiting subliminal messaging in advertising.
Cool.
But this is also the country that banned Gloomy Sunday
Oh, I remember that.
for 50, 60 years. 60
Episode-
years.
What episode was that, Mike?
That was the saddest song in the world episode.
I think it was like 9 or something.
And that's where we talked about Gloomy Sunday, which was a Hungarian suicide song.
Yeah. So they banned that song.
And they banned subliminal messages. The Parliament,
Love to ban.
I think the UK Parliament needs something better to do.
Yeah.
Like, you should probably be, I don't know, taking care of your poor people, Governor,
Governor.
rather than worrying about if the advertisers are going to do subliminal messaging. But speaking of Brits,
Episode 6, by the way.
episode 6 is Gloomy Sunday. Speaking of Brits,
Yes. Righto.
a couple of the most famous subliminal messaging cases in the United States are the result of British people. For example, Judas Priest.
What?
Right. Judas Priest and Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, right.
Remember how people used to think of Ozzy? Right. I mean, when Ozzy Osbourne was on, when the Osbournes were on, and he was a complete and total mess. You know,
What?
you just see Ozzy like trying to beat
It
alcoholism.
was actually really sad.
And he's like trying to quit smoking. He's like, Sharon, where's my cigarettes?
Why won't you let me have a puff?
And he's freaking out
I just
about
want
it.
a puff.
And he's like, I'm the Prince of Darkness. And it's like, Ozzy wasn't really the Prince of Darkness, obviously, but he got that reputation. And so he had a song called Suicide Solution.
Okay.
And Suicide Solution, he said, was based on... Now, we talked about Bon Scott in a previous episode with
Yes.
Susan Messino.
Right.
So Bon Scott was friends with Ozzy. AC/DC hit it, the same time when Black Sabbath was very successful.
Mm-hmm.
And Bon Scott, drank a lot. Like, drank so much that he barfed on it. He choked in his own vomit and died. In a tragic way.
So sad.
But so Ozzy wrote a song about alcohol, and he called it Suicide Solution.
Okay.
Solution, like liquid.
Oh, okay. Not like
So-
the solution to a problem. Like
Solution, like liquid.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, the first line of the song is "Wine is fine, but liquor's quicker." And he gets in, and there's a part of the song which is, it sounds like you can barely hear the talking of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like, why try? Get the gun and shoot.
Oh.
Well, somebody killed themselves in 1985.
Oh, gosh, that's awful.
And the parents sued Ozzy in 1986.
Oh,
Right. It's a horrible thing, but,
so sad.
well, think about the people that were attracted to heavy metal in the 1980s, in the 1970s. You're attracted to this underground culture. You're attracted to outsider culture. And those are the kind of people who feel lonely, isolated, the kind of people who might not find a solution with other people, and they end up killing themselves.
Right.
And obviously the parents are distraught. What a horrible thing. They sue Ozzy Osbourne, saying that he said, why try? Get the gun and shoot. Which, to me, I don't know if necessarily... I guess if it's in a song called Suicide Solution,
Right.
get the gun and shoot means shoot yourself.
It could push someone over the edge if they're very volatile.
And I don't know if I believe him. Ozzy said that the phrase actually was, get the flaps out.
What?
Get the flaps
The
out.
flaps?
English slang for a vajayjay.
Oh,
the vajayjay, the
what?
vagina. English
That's
slang
not
for a vagina.
cool.
So get the
Oh,
flaps out.
Really? Honestly?
And I don't even know.
that's poor.
And so,
That's not poetry.
I think that's really weak sauce. And I think it's really weak sauce because I think they were just using it because you can hear get the flaps out instead of get the gun out. And get the gun and shoot.
You can always argue like, oh, he's saying this, he's saying this. No one actually knows what he's saying.
Well,
He might not even know what he's saying.
right, because
frankly.
he was snorting ants at the time. Like Ozzy was heavily into cocaine, heavily into alcohol. Like he was all the way on the other side at the time. But the thing is, get the flaps out in a song about your friend committing suicide.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like it fits for that particular
Get the
topic.
flaps out. There's no flaps to get
oh,
out. Somebody just
yeah.
killed themselves. Keep the flaps in.
Right. So it was litigation, and they were trying to
I think that's what I think.
defend him.
I
And,
I don't think Ozzy was trying to get people to kill themselves, but I
Right.
think
he
in
was
this-
like desperate for
he was looking to make the song more shocking or things like that, and then maybe they just did this subliminal thing to be funny or crazy or edgy.
That's so horrible though, because think about how you'd feel after you heard that.
Sure. Well, what did he do for the next 10 years? He just drank himself to death. You know? So Ozzy obviously, but that Get the Flaps Out, Suicide Solution went to court. Judas Priest was the second one, went to court.
Judas Priest.
I love the Priest. I used to sing in a Priest tribute band.
That's right. You played a mean Rob Halford, I must say.
Thank you very much. You know, and I really wish I would have asked Rob Halford. I interviewed Rob Halford a couple of years ago, and I wish I had asked him about this. But he wanted to talk about his new album.
Sure, right.
He was at like a Indian casino in Arizona at the time, and like I was calling him between playing draw poker or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you're interviewing him for a magazine too, so it
wasn't a
his,
personal thing.
Yeah, right.
And but they had a song called "Better by You, Better Than Me." And I think that their case is a little better than Ozzy's because they just said, do it. So, do it.
That could be open to interpretation.
And it wasn't a song that was written by Judas Priest. You know, they were sued the same year that Ozzy was, 1986, which it seemed like it was okay to take heavy metal bands to court. This is right before Congress had the Parents Music Research Council, which is why we ended up with explicit lyrics.
Oh, okay, right. I remember when that all
this was a
happened.
So this was a thing when we were really worried about music.
Right,
and gangster rap hadn't even started yet.
Oh my goodness.
And so the whole idea was another kid killed themselves, and they said that in the Judas Priest song, it said "do it," and it absolutely sounds like they're saying "do it."
Oh wow!
Like they are saying "do it." But they're not even talking about suicide. They
right,
could be talking about
because
sex or
or anything. Do it could imply any number of things.
So I mean, nobody from Judas Priest went to jail. It just was it was basically a big heavy metal press conference, you know, kind of thing. But I think the most interesting part of that is the judge declared subliminal messages, and this is a precedent now. Subliminal messages are not speech that's covered by the First Amendment.
Interesting.
So you could be doing something. You could say something like "fire in a crowded room," subliminally, and it's not covered. It's not protected speech.
Wow.
If you are not speaking to a person rationally, if
Yeah.
you are trying to speak directly to their subconscious, it is not protected
Okay.
speech.
All right.
So that is something to keep in mind for the next episode.
Good to know.
Well, we should hear a couple of more famous.
Ooh, yeah.
Because there's a couple different ways that people say that you hear subliminal messages.
Yes.
Number one is the quiet ones. So that's
Beneath
do it.
a louder thing.
Or get the flaps out. Or if you listen to the end of, there's that Def Leppard song. Oh, I don't want to touch you too. Love Bites. The end of Love.
Such a good song.
Yes, the end of Love Bites.
Oh, right. It has that weird,
There's robot voice.
Yeah.
And this is what they said. People said that Def Leppard goes, Jesus of Nazareth, go to hell.
What?
That's what
I'm
they
listening
said.
to that later.
But listen to Love Bites and
Okay.
see if you don't hear that at the very end
That's
of the
bizarre.
song. Now, I have no idea why Def
Why?
Leppard, who had no, they weren't evil at all. They were just the guys. They were the only evil they were was that they would make love to you and would not call you again. Like that was the worst thing about Def Leppard.
The only evil thing was that they used up too much Aquanet. There was
Right.
none left for anyone else.
Right, and they used all the condoms in your town. Well, if you watch that behind the music, those guys obviously owe child support all around the world.
Wow.
But the thing is, I have no idea why Def Leppard would say Jesus of Nazareth, go to hell. But listen to the end of that song. And
Okay.
when people are looking for subliminal messages, see if you don't hear it.
All right.
And you can hear that on the radio on any classic rock station any day.
Oh, yeah. They play it all the time. It's one of the biggies.
Off of Hysteria.
The big rock ballad.
Love Bites! Love Bleeds!
So good, though. I love that
It's a great song. No, that Hysteria album is brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
this way and that, it's brilliant.
That particular song I just find pretty amazing.
Sure, it was one of my favorites too when I was a kid. So we should talk a little bit. I mean, number one, the Beatles used backward messages.
Oh,
So the
my
subliminal,
gosh, yes.
there's subliminal messages,
buried Paul.
and there's backward messages.
Right.
So-
Okay. So they're different things, the subliminal versus the backwards.
And I don't know about the research on actually being able to process backmasking.
Because that seems like a lot for a brain to be able to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't underestimate the power.
The brain is a miracle.
It's a miracle. I mean, obviously our brains are amazing.
Yes, they are. My brain especially.
But to be able to take something that you hear backwards and like even subliminally translate it into something that makes sense.
It's ridiculous, right? Like,
yeah, it seems a bit much. I mean,
but
I keep an open mind.
In the Beatles' Revolution #9, the idea was that because the whole Paul is dead thing,
right?
And if this was the days before the internet, the days before TMZ, like you would, like now you see Paul McCartney going to the bathroom at some club. Back in the day, you would not get that kind of information.
Were more legendary characters.
You waited for papers.
Right.
You waited for something in the mail. You could be a member of a fan club and you get something in the mail.
That's true.
I would not wait for the mail today. On Facebook, you see it 30.
Email?
On Twitter, you see it a minute later.
Right.
So we should listen to this one though, Britney Spears.
Oh yeah.
And this is her first big hit.
Hit me, baby, one more time.
Yeah, let's take a listen to it forwards
and then backwards.
And then let's see what you think.
Okay, here we go. So did you hear what she said?
Oh, yeah. Remember in that video, she was dressed like a schoolgirl, the whole thing, like the whole...
Oh, yeah, she had the cool dance.
Yeah.
The group.
And our friend Dave used to carry around a picture of Britney Spears in his wallet and tell everybody that was his girlfriend.
Aww.
That was before she was popular. He's like, check out my girlfriend. We'd all be like, oh my God, where's she? He's like, oh, she's not here tonight.
That's totes adorbs.
It was totes adorbs.
All right, so...
She was pretty hot back then, but like, I don't know if that would make me want to buy the album.
Well, if you play that song forward and you hear her sing, "With you, I lose my mind, give me a sign."
I hear that.
Give me a sign. All right. But if you play it reversed, apparently, and you can be the judge, we just played it so you could rewind. Rewind. But it reversed, it supposedly sounds like, "Sleep with me, I'm not too young." Oh, that's just so nice, isn't
You
it?
hear that. You totally hear that. It's in there.
It really does sound
Do I
like
think
that.
it has an effect on people, like all of a sudden being like, jailbait's cool? No, I don't think so. But I do think...
That's pretty weird.
I think that song came of an age
Why,
in the digital world where people could play things backwards and forwards easily, and then you just heard it. So I don't know why they would do that, except they would... Well, the people in Hollywood are sick.
Yeah.
That's like, there's your answer.
How about another one, Mike?
Okay, this is the one, like when I was in 6th grade, people would be like, yeah, my mom won't let me listen to Queen. And I'm like, Queen seemed like the most inoffensive band. I mean, I know there's plenty of crazy stories about Queen, but they seem like the most inoffensive band in the world.
And especially with their songs. I mean, the topics of their songs.
Yeah, you're my best friend.
On the surface level are very
nice.
right.
Like, you're my best friend sounds like a My Little Pony song.
We are the champions, my friends.
Right. Indeed. So, but another one bites the dust. Take a listen to it forward. Take a listen. This is the most famous one. Take a listen to it backward.
Okay, here we go.
One bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. Ow! Another one bites the dust. Hey, hey! Another one bites the dust. Hey! No one.
Yeah, you can hear it. I hear it. Like, but do you really think they were that calculated to try to say, decide to smoke marijuana?
And why? I mean, why would you take the effort to put that into a song? Is it? I can't think of anything that I would want that badly to.
No, and Queen's one of the few bands where every one of their members has been a writer. Maybe it's the only band. Every one of their members has been a writer on a top hit.
That's amazing.
Or like a number one hit.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean it literally is incredible. And so, but the thing that Roger Taylor, when he wrote that bass riff and then they did this song, like he's like, it's going to be another one bites the dust, and then backwards it's going to be decide to smoke marijuana. Because that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make people in America smoke the marijuana. Like, they care if anybody smokes marijuana. Like,
How does it even? Yeah, I don't know.
So yes, played backwards. Another One Bites the Dust
That
is
sounds-
Decide to Smoke Marijuana.
Who knew? I had no idea actually, and I love that song.
Yeah, that's a classic. Okay, the last one, Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven, and this is
Dude, no stairway. Can't you read the sign?
hey, it's my podcast, and I'm okay with Stairway. Let's play it out.
There's still time to change the road
Okay, it would be the exact opposite of the intention of the song if they really wanted people to hear My Sweet Satan. Yes, you can hear that backwards.
Well, that's kind of cool, actually. If you're, from the standpoint of it's a piece of art. Going forward, you're looking at Stairway to Heaven. Going backwards, what are you looking at?
Right, you're going down to hell.
Right. So, I mean,
The highway to hell.
that I kind of appreciate, actually.
Sure.
It's kind of cool, little Easter egg in there.
It is. It's just these things just happen.
creepy as
Words are words. We have 26 letters. We only have so many,
Yeah.
phonetics,
Right.
and that's just the way it goes. But that's I think those are the most famous of them. So do we think these things really work? I mean, my opinion is that they don't.
Yeah, I mean, especially the nature of the messages. I mean, they're not like telling people like go kill your parents or anything like that. It's just kind of it's kind of fun stuff. Like it's
Do it.
do it.
Get the flaps out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, get the flaps out. So, okay, the first studies that came about in the 1950s, the drink Coke message at the movie theater.
Yeah.
like
Did it
even
work?
the initial scientist who came out and said, that it worked. He came out and he retracted the findings, saying that the study was faulty.
What?
But we do have, just recently in this past decade. So Princeton University's Joel Cooper had some television viewers watching a program of The Simpsons and put in subliminal messages related to thirst. He found that the people actually got thirstier.
That's interesting.
Published a paper in 2002 in the Journal of Applied Social Psychology, and here's the quote. Our findings, along with a growing body of research in social cognition, suggest that there might be some truth to the suggestion that our motivational states are affected and
Whoa.
might even be caused by preconsciously perceived stimuli,
Whoa.
which means that his
business
study showed that subliminal messages work. So while I would say that's a silly thing, the science actually says different, that we can be influenced by things that we cannot perceive.
Which is why it's good when the government actually says like, you can't do that. I mean, on radio broadcasts and stuff.
Sure.
Because imagine you got your radio on and then it's like,
Right. It said things like, right, give Mike $100.
right, or they're just like, I don't know, what would it
Subscribe
be
to this
like?
podcast.
Right.
Review us on iTunes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be more like, pay your taxes. I don't know.
Right. No, what the government would say. I was thinking about things like us saying
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like
no.
review us on iTunes,
Right.
which people should do anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's a great.
We
that's a
really
great
need you
point.
guys to come on iTunes. If you guys are on iTunes and you're downloading it from there, please leave a review.
Pretty,
of
please.
See You on the Other Side. This is important because it helps spread the message to other people, gets more downloads. We're getting more downloads every week, and
Yes,
we want to
thank
thank you
you.
for spreading that message.
You guys are awesome.
We're having a good time. We're getting really good feedback, but leave a review on
Yeah.
iTunes. Go on, just click 5 stars. Say that Mike and Wendy are the sexiest mofos you've ever seen
Or not seen.
or
for
listened
that matter.
to. Mike and Wendy are sexy mofos. No,
No, but seriously, if you have, I mean, it takes like 30 seconds. Maybe you go on there,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't even have enough reviews right now for people to see an average review rating.
right. So
if it would just mean a lot to us to have,
it just adds a lot. It adds a lot. It's
Some reviews.
important for the promotion of the podcast.
Yeah, so-
and we're developing new things every day, and new members and new people are listening, and getting even more people is going to make this more fun. We're going to have
Yes.
the more listeners we get, the cooler guests we'll
join
get.
the community.
And the more people will listen to Sunspot songs, which is, if you guys are Sunspot listeners,
That's
you're,
right.
you're helping us out too.
We heart you.
So anyway, that's just a little bit on subliminal messages, and we'll be back.
Yes, we will.
And in the meantime, let's listen to some music.
Okay, that sounds great, Mike. And show notes can be found at othersidepodcast.com/14. That's number 14. And please feel free to contact us if you have any questions or ideas for future shows at othersidepodcast.com/contact.
Today's song is a Sunspot original instrumental. We snuck in a few subliminal messages in there for you. See if you can pick them out. This one's called The Long Hammer.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.